Welcome everybody. It's your boy Mo Crosby. I am here with who am I here with? I'm here with Patrick, Stephanie,
Hi.
and James. Hello, welcome. It's been a while that we've all done the show together, right? I
Yeah.
think.
You mean
Yeah,
like
because
Mandalorian?
right, because you did a Superman and Lois episode with Stephanie and James, and I wasn't on it, and I did the next week, and they weren't on it, and you weren't on it. Well, but no, welcome back, guys. It's fun. It's fun to have you guys here. We are here to talk the Falcon and the Winter Soldier T-shirt aside. Um, we're gonna be talking the last two episodes, episode 5 and 6, right? Yeah, don't mind my T-shirt. This is the wrong. I was rushing and I put on the wrong shirt. I really do have a Falcon shirt or a Captain America shirt, but doesn't
Are
really
you
matter.
worried everybody is going to think you're a DC fanboy and that's why
Right
you
now,
don't like this episode?
and it's the wrong
They're
Superman
gonna
shirt too.
they're gonna like tune
It's
in and be like, "Oh, his opinion doesn't matter because he's just a DC fanboy."
right. It's unfortunate, and it's the Snyder Superman too. It's not like the regular
Oh,
ass. Right.
whoa!
It's the worst kind. It's the worst kind. um. Anyway, so we're here to talk episodes 5 and 6 of Falcon Winter Soldier, which is the whole no, not the whole world is watching. That was episode 4. I believe episode 5 was help me out.
I didn't even
I'm-
know we were discussing episode 5. I don't remember episode 5.
It's
Episode-
Secret Warriors.
Episode 5 is Truth, and episode 6 is One World, One People. And episode 5 opens up at the end of the murder scene, right? This is the end of this.
Yes.
The
And
bloody
they have
shield.
that big fight in the warehouse.
Right. And speaking of big fights, in the last couple of episodes, we did have amazing fights, and I think we should be able to talk about the fights and what fight is you prefer towards the end. We're gonna discuss because I'm not a fan of the fights in episode 6. One world.
Yeah, I agree with that. Well,
Okay.
part of the problem with the fights in episode 6 was, and we talked about this, like nighttime. Like it's just hard to
Nighttime.
see everything that's going on during the nighttime versus a
And
daylight fight.
someone said they blew their daytime fight budget in episode 1.
It's true. It's totally true. What is
That
up
wa-
with these shows not finishing well? Anyways, we'll get to that.
Yeah,
But
we'll get to that. But so episode 5, Truth, I think. This is and why I think this episode is good and it's important is because we actually see, some sort of fallout or some, Walker finally gets something happened to Walker because my impression of the show was he was going to get away with it.
Mhm.
And I felt that so much after the show and after the episode. I thought he was going to get a slap on the wrist. Okay, we'll sit you down for a second, but you're still Captain America. You can come back later. That's exactly where I thought it was going, but I didn't expect him to get like fully punished. Even if in a sense he kind of got away with it, didn't get
yeah,
court-martialed.
he got punished, like exactly. He got court-martialed, but he wasn't like put away for murder.
Right.
He didn't get court-martialed.
He didn't. It was
Oh,
just
that's right.
congressional hearing or something.
He was told you're lucky you're not getting court-martialed.
Right.
That's right.
In my estimation of it, I didn't think he got punished enough.
Agreed.
But
I mean, I think that's what we were supposed to think.
right. At least he got punished, and then at the end of that whole thing, you have what's her name, Julia Louis-Dreyfus, this character come in and
I was so excited when she walked in. I was like, "No way!" I don't know. Maybe you all knew that she was going to be in the show, but I did not know she was going to be in the show.
no, that was a surprise that I'm happy they kept. As opposed to like WandaVision, where they're like, "Oh, you're gonna get this mind-blowing cameo."
And she's gonna play Contessa. That's great. That's great. I love it.
Right. So I enjoyed her character, and then her character comes in, and that happens. But before we get to all of that, he got the shield taken from him, and what I thought is the best fight of the show, the entire show. What do you guys think?
I think for
the opening.
yeah.
Yes,
The opening fight.
Yeah.
Yeah, it was intense. It had like emotional power behind it, right?
Mhm.
Which is something I think we'll get to later. Felt a little bit more lacking in the later fights. I think that actually a lot of times these action writers like underestimate that like a fight needs some stakes and some emotional thrust, and so of all the fights, throughout the whole show, this one had the most kind of. I mean, they're literally fighting over who's going to be Cap and over the shield. You can't get more kind of. I don't know.
Right, with the blood still on, it's still blood
still
stained.
On the shield, yeah.
Right, and I thought that was really powerful. Stephanie?
Yeah, I was like on the edge of my seat. I think I like immediately started crying. I was like, I can't believe that Bucky is like, and just like the parallels of that fight with to the fight between Rogers, Bucky, and Tony, of like, and just that both episodes 4 and 5 like called back to that exact same moment of fighting over the shield, and both scenes end with someone dropping the shield and walking away. Was like very emotionally high stakes for me, for sure.
James?
It also reminded me a lot of the sword fight with. Go ahead, James.
Sword fight. For me, the best fight scene is going to be the Wakandan Warriors. I think the episode prior to that.
Yeah.
I think that that does have it's in the conversation for the best fights of the episode, but I think of the show. But again, I think the stakes, the emotion, and everything that came behind in this fight. Again, Stephanie made the point of calling back to the Rogers, Tony, and Bucky fight, which I thought, was almost exactly this. That
yep.
I think that in itself just kind of gives this an edge, just slight edge. But the Wakanda Warrior fight, like, no, I can't take that away from you. So if that's your best one, it's like a 1A, 1B type thing, right?
Yeah. I also think that fight does a lot of unspoken establishing, because Sam is holding his own against 2 super soldiers, which really solidifies that like he can be Captain America.
Right.
It wasn't the serum that made Steve Rogers Captain America. That is not necessary, because Sam is such a skilled fighter and he's so dedicated to doing the right thing that even though maybe with actual laws of physics, he shouldn't have been able to hold his own in that fight. Movie magic made it happen, and I was there for it. And I think it really, I know this is a little later in the episode, but it really lent to the work that Sam puts in his training montage of like, he held his own in that fight, but it was hard for him. And so he needed to like put more into
Up
his,
it a little, right?
Yeah. But
right.
I loved the like emotional roller coaster that was the end of episode 4 that carried into episode 5 that led us into like the bromance that we all needed to recover from that.
Right. I think yes. Thank you, Stephanie, for the segue, because I feel like after a fight like that, we kind of needed to slow down, and I liked the pacing of episode 5. It's one thing. What most action shows lack is that a very good, kind of like slow down, a very good like drop in pace that still is still a good, that still tells a good story. And I felt like this episode did that, because after that fight, after everything that happened, the shield is on the ground. Walker's laying down with his arm broken, which I think should have been healed by the time he had his hearing. But all of that happens, and it's like breather, and it's still a go ahead.
I was just gonna say they did something Stephanie brought up. They did a better job of like in the fight prior in 4. It felt a little more goofy that Sam was holding his own against the super soldiers, and in this fight they did a couple of things where he was like using his jetpack or like the wings for stability, stuff like that made it feel more like, oh, I see how he's able to hold his own. Because I remember after watching the fight at the end of 4 being like, he should have been as dead as like the other guy.
Yeah.
So they did a better job in that fight.
As Lamar, he should have been literally as dead as Lamar, but movie magic, as Stephanie said in that scene. But in this fight, I like how we just know now, like the wings are a part of his fighting style.
You see some of that in the previous episodes. I feel like in 4, I was watching some videos of people like talking about episode 4, and they like zoomed in. Like, I think you miss it because there's so much fighting in episode 4 that like you just gloss over it. But if you go back and just focus on Sam, he's relying on his jetpacks and his wings, right? Like he blocks with his wings. He uses the jetpacks to like project himself backwards to avoid, like all of that is established, but it's not until episode 6 that you like really hone in on it. That was
Yeah,
very
I just felt like there was more of those little tricks popping up in the episode 5 fight than the episode 4 fight. So I just felt like it. That's all I was saying. Yeah, I
yeah,
agree.
yeah.
Okay. And so you have the slowdown, you have the bromance. He helps you after the hearing, after Contessa comes in, you get Sam, back at home, and I think it was Sam and Bucky talking. It was a little slight workout with the shield. Toss, throw and catch, a little frisbee.
I loved how they were like playing catch with the shield.
Like, yeah, you're using Captain
Wait,
America's
are
shield.
we just gonna blow past Bucky flirting with Sarah?
Wait, doesn't it happen?
The training montage.
Whenever it
is
happens, it happens towards the end of the episode. And
Yeah,
the
I thought it
flirting
happened
with
when
Sarah
they were
is the
fixing the
best.
boat.
And I'm looking forward to their marriage.
The training montage is towards the Bucky Sam stuff is at the end.
It's dangerous territory, man. Marrying like your best friend's sister, but still, I'm on
Are
board.
they best friends? I feel like they're co-workers, as they said. They're just really good co-workers. I'm not gonna give them the best friend title just yet.
I agree that they were co-workers at the start of the show, and I think by the end of the show they're like buddy buds.
Yeah, I mean,
and I watched.
He got an invite to the cookout. Like he
really did get an invite to the cookout.
Sam
That's
now.
kind of wild. That's
Yeah,
kind of wild.
I watched an interview of the actor who plays Sam, and he was talking about the actor who plays Winter Soldier, and they're
in love.
They're like legit
yeah, they're
friends.
really good friends.
They really are.
Weird.
He said that. Why can't I think of their names right now? But
Anthony
he said
Mackie
that
and Sebastian Stan.
Sebastian Stan. He said Sebastian Stan is literally the most boring person on earth. He said something like he's like literally the most boring person in all of Hollywood. He's introverted and he doesn't go out and he has no friends, and that is the opposite of Anthony Mack, and so he's always taken about and doing stuff. So anyways, I thought it was it's like funny how they're actually friends in real life, and I appreciate that.
I saw an interview where the interviewer was asking Anthony Mackie and Sebastian Stan what their biggest pet peeve about each other is, and Sebastian Stan's pet peeve was that Anthony Mackie doesn't slow down and show his tender side enough, and Anthony Mackie's pet peeve was that Sebastian Stan isn't like outgoing and doesn't want to go to the club with him.
Which is really funny because if you look at that club scene, right?
Yeah.
In the episode, it actually looked that way. It looked like Anthony was like kind of into it, and Sebastian was like, "Why am I here?"
Yeah.
And then Zemo, Zemo, who we're not supposed to like.
The question I had after seeing that interview though is like, how do you like get to be a Hollywood actor by being a hyper introverted, quiet person? Like, what was the line of life that you took that you end up as a Hollywood actor, even though you're like not outgoing? I just think that's very interesting. Anyways,
maybe you went to Juilliard and you're super serious, and you
it's
probably what it is.
Totally. I just thought that was very interesting.
Okay, so the boat scene happens where Sam is trying to fix the boat, and then Bucky comes in, and he's like, I think he starts to help him out, and then he uses his arm, and then they pull out the water pump.
Sarah with them, and that engine was the best. I love that scene.
I told you not to pull out the water pump, and he's like, "Wait, really? No, that's not what's broken, and you guys better leave." And that whole thing, and then they're fixing the boat, and the eyes, they're giving each other eyes. I thought I was the only one that saw it, but it was, they're
gonna
get married, man.
I don't know.
I think my theory is that they both understand that it makes Sam uncomfortable, and so they're both leaning into it.
No, that could probably be what it is. But Patrick,
that's probably true, but I'm on board either way.
For sure.
Patrick,
I really like when Bucky learns her name. This is a deep cut, but her name is Sarah, and the first thing that Bucky tells Captain America, Steve Rogers, when he gets recovered, is when Sam is like, that's it? Like we just trust him. And Bucky turns to Steve and says, "Your mom's name is Sarah."
Huh.
There's a moment. It's a stretch, but
Are we talking about when? No. Civil War.
Yeah, in Civil War, when Sam and Steve go on the run, and he's in the vice, and the first thing that Bucky says to assure them that he's not the Winter Soldier anymore is telling Steve Rogers that his mom's name is Sarah.
Wow, that's super deep.
Super deep cut.
Patrick, the answer to your question about the line is being able to pretend well. Someone is watching and answered your question for you.
Mm-hmm.
Right. So that happens, and then they come to this scene, which I think was really powerful, where both of them are talking, playing frisbee with the shield. And I'm like, you're really playing frisbee with Captain America's shield? Okay, whatever. It's not my shield.
I loved it. I just love that it has
it's not my shield.
two brothers playing catch in the backyard.
Yeah.
Yes.
Do it.
And here's where
also at that time we haven't like 100% established, like we know Sam's going to be the next Captain America, but the show hasn't 100% established that Sam is going to be so the fact that like passing the shield back and forth, I think, is a little bit of a play on that as well.
Right. And this is where I think Sam is also a social worker in the comics, and I don't know if he's a social worker in the MCU but he's a social worker in the comics, and this is where that comes to play, where he tells Bucky, if you're going to atone, if you're going to repent, you have to actually do the work. You have to actually talk to these people and let them know. And I think that in its sense helps Bucky. If you look through episodes at the end of episode 6, it helps him come to a realization that, look, man, I have to actually, because I think he wanted to do it in episode 1, when he wanted to tell the old man what happened to his son, but he didn't. He felt just being, this good Bucky, is good enough, but he kind of needed someone to push him over the edge. And unfortunately, his therapist wasn't doing it. We're not going to talk about that.
What's interesting is we see in Bucky what we don't get in John Walker, which is that Bucky has a legitimate redemption arc. He puts the work, even though he stumbles a little bit and Sam needs to correct his course. Bucky goes through the turmoil of like addressing the people in that book and like making amends and like, actively addressing his participation in things, both in the people in his book, but also that conversation that he has with Sam, where he explicitly apologizes to Sam for him and Steve not knowing the weight of giving him the shield, where John Walker royally is awful, atrocious, and he just shows up on the scene and like now he's a good guy again. Like, one is a legitimate redemption arc, the other is not.
Is he?
Good guy. He's fighting on the right side.
All right.
Walker is complicated.
I'm not even gonna give him that.
In the chat, they're right. We see Sam doing social work at the VA, the Winter Soldier. I thought I remembered that scene, but I was like,
he works with veterans.
I stand corrected.
And we see that in multiple places. It's not just a one-time thing.
Yeah.
He does it with Carly.
Yeah.
He does it a lot with Carly.
I couldn't remember if I was, because there's also like the social worker people in the like Netflix show, and I was like, am I confusing those scenes? But yeah.
Okay. So one thing I kind of wanted to talk about really quick was how cute it was when Bucky's taking a nap or sleeping and wakes up to like the kids playing with the shield, and where if that was Walker, I felt like the scene would have been totally different. Just Bucky's like smiling, is okay with it. He's not like, yo, put that back. It's kind of cute. And then we jump into let's jump into the training montage, where I know Patrick, I don't know if you liked it per se. Did you care for the montage?
There's a lot of flips. How many flips do you need to do, man?
Parkour.
We got it. You can catch the shield inverted.
No, it's so crazy because you're not supposed to catch the shield straight up. You're supposed to flip to catch it.
So many times I was watching that and I was just waiting for his hand to like get sliced off. I'll be honest, like
it's
even when
so
they play
weird.
catch, I'm like, all right, you don't have super strength, you don't have like a metal arm, and we see this thing literally like go into trees. Like they throw it and it'll like chunk into a tree or into a body, but somehow your bare hand is like bare knuckling that thing.
Funny enough, the shield has never gone into a body. It gets stuck in the tree. It gets stuck in the wall.
That's true.
But flesh.
It's a property of vibranium. Don't worry about it.
Yeah,
it's flesh repellent.
Cool. But doesn't like vibranium like get it stores up momentum and then releases it, so it actually should be coming in your hand.
Not this
harder.
Not this vibranium.
That's not vibranium. That's like the tech that was put in the Black Panther suit.
Oh, I thought that it was a property of vibranium that Shuri talked about in
Vibranium.
Black
No,
Panther.
she
Okay.
she enhanced the vibranium with her tech that combines
Oh, okay.
the
Yeah.
kinetic energy.
Also, how come there's no Shuri name drop in this? That was dumb.
I
We
think
know
they're
she's the
trying.
one who made the suit.
I know. I think they're trying super hard not to name drop, in my opinion, any like bigger, greater MCU characters. Even though, because I think she's gonna be super important in the next Black Panther. Even if you look at WandaVision, they didn't really name drop any other heroes, which is kind of weird.
Mhm.
But
It is a little weird because that was supposed to be what differentiated this from the Netflix shows, right? Where they had to like play around that stuff. There's no
Yeah.
like I understand. There's no reason not to.
no,
Other than you
zero.
probably have to. I think every time they drop a character's name, they do have to pay the original creator, like comic book creator of that person. So that might be why.
Like, yeah, you blow your budget in the daytime fights. That way, you don't have any money to pay off.
Yeah.
To pay. Okay, great. And so the final thing that happened in this episode, I don't know, am I missing anything before we get to the kind of like hangover or the kind of
You're
like
missing him going back to Baltimore.
Talk to
Oh.
Isaiah.
yes. he
Patrick
did.
only cares about Baltimore because he grew up there.
You know what? Go ahead, Patrick. Take this one.
No, you go ahead. Go ahead.
No, you go ahead and take this one because I clearly missed it. So go ahead.
Oh, when he goes back and talks to
He tries to give the shield to Isaiah.
Isaiah, and Isaiah's like no black man essentially can ever be Captain America, and so that's important to establish because that's like weighing on Sam the whole time he's back in New Orleans, right? It's like he just kind of got told, no, you can't be Captain America, like,
Right.
and so now he's trying to figure out, is he right? And it's cool because one of the things I appreciate about the show is Sam finds his own path, right? And so
I definitely 100% agree because I think the way it's handled on the show is actually a little lighter than how it's done in the comics. When he's coming up, and I mean I do still appreciate the show for touching on it because it'd be weird if they just kind of glaze through it. But I think they could have gone, with Isaiah's character being, the old man, because in the comics it was Old Man Rogers, but with Isaiah's character being the old man character in this and being like the fierce, hey, look, this is what happened to me. What makes you think you're gonna fare any better? If and I had super soldier serum, you're just a regular person. Like what do you think happened to you at the end of this? The question I have to ask right now is, we don't know how the super soldier serum works in the MCU in terms of reproduction now, do we? Because Cap never had a kid.
No, yeah, it's not been addressed. I definitely kept wondering if every time Isaiah's grandson is on the screen, I'm like, homie, are you a little hyped?
Yeah. He is a character in the comics, right? He's
yes, he is.
He's Avengers West, right? So he's like with the twins that we just met from WandaVision.
Yes.
So those characters, like they're clearly establishing Avengers West or Avengers Junior or whatever it was.
Yeah.
Because
the Young Justice of Marvel.
Because we're getting, when we get what's it called? Archer guy. Young Avengers. When we get what's his name? Hawkeye.
Yeah,
his daughter's gonna be in that
show.
Oh,
is she? So yeah, well, they're definitely doing Young Avengers. Like it's so clear. Somehow the twins will be back. Young Avengers, cool. But don't get mad at me, chat, because I'm pretty sure Young Avengers does in fact hang out on the West Coast. Anyways, which is like really rare. It's really rare. Like what Marvel characters hang out on the West Coast? Other than Runaways and Young Avengers. So
during this, everything happens in New York.
Yeah.
There's only one city in the MCU.
I mean, ironically, in Marvel, we were talking about this, I think in the chat, but like there's more of the rest of the world in MCU than there is in Marvel Comics for sure. Because in Marvel Comics, literally everything happens in New York. If you're like not the Incredible Hulk, you're in New York.
Well, Natasha, Yeah, you're in New
No,
York
she's like in New York all the time.
all
Like,
the time.
all the
Yeah.
time.
It's either
all the
New
time.
York or a different planet.
Yeah, there you go.
Yes, based on New York. All right, and then the end of the episode, we have, his wings destroyed, and here comes Bucky with a box, and I'm like, of course it's gonna be a suit, right? It's fantastic. It's gonna look great, They open a box. We don't get to see it, of course, because why should we see it on this episode? Which is perfect. I don't mind that they did a cliffhanger for that. What happens at the next mid-credit scene is what I thought was even more interesting than what happened with Sam's mid-credit scene. We get Walker going into cosplay super hard. Like, listen.
He like melts down his medals.
Listen, like he
Kinda
takes
weird.
and then he leaves the one right on the back of the shield for some reason, or maybe to keep his
Isn't
head
it
together.
Lamar's? It's Lamar's medal that he leaves in the
It
back.
was
of the
it was But I thought that
No
was
cap.
I thought that was super interesting. Like, he's like, you know what? You could take your shield. I will cosplay mine, and it looked pretty good for a cosplay shield.
It did look good. What I didn't like about it is like when we saw that scene, I felt like that was further establishing how unhinged John Walker is. And then we do not see that played out in episode 6. Like, we just pretend he's fine. And it was so weird to me. Yeah, they don't address anything that happens with him in episode 6.
I feel like you're waiting that whole episode for him to do something. Like, I think they play it out by you just not knowing. Every time he shows up, he's like a wild card of what's about to happen. And I think they do establish that multiple times. And you see like Sam and Bucky giving him looks like multiple times to the fight.
That's why it fell flat.
I mean, he does start a fight when there's people that are about to die, and doesn't care about the people who are about to die. Like,
yeah, totally. I think
it's not perfect. I'm with you.
I just wanted it to be actually addressed. Like,
I think that it will be addressed. It just isn't addressed yet, right? Like, they're kind of setting him up for a more long-term story arc.
I didn't like that we ended the season 1 on at best at worst a neutral position with him, and at best a slightly positive.
Well, I don't think it's positive at all.
The chat says Walker was done really dirty despite his many screw-ups.
I have no sympathy for John Walker in any way, shape, or form. No, absolutely not.
And that
he's got a black suit, and he's like working for Contessa. He's going down a path.
I don't know anything about Contessa, and I don't know anything about U.S. Agent, but I did look up U.S. Agent, and he's like on the Avengers. And yeah, I'm uncomfortable with
he's
that.
Always a complicated character. Like, he's always been intended to be a complicated character.
Well,
all right. We'll see.
That leads us into episode 6. What was it again? What was it called? I have it ready. One World, One People, which I think is a funny line, right? Because at the end, the only reason I think it's a funny line is at the end when they stuff everybody into the van and they go on. Never mind. We'll talk about that later.
It's not a good catchphrase.
It's not.
No. The world one people, but I'm gonna kill some of them.
But
it's not a really good galvanizing statement.
And that's my problem with Carly. I thought, in her initial appearance on the show, she was kind of smart.
She started
interesting, and she just
it went downhill.
Into
the moment
villain.
She blew up that one spot,
it was over.
Every appearance from there on, she just got worse and worse and got less interesting.
I'm not sure that I 1000% agree with that. I think she tanked hard, and I think that was my understanding is that they were supposed to release a Plague, and then they had to hard adjust because of COVID, and so they just didn't have the time to like actually work out something interesting with her and with those Flag Smashers. So like leaving space for that, I didn't care about her in this episode. Like, I did not care when she died.
No,
like, it was not powerful.
No. And part of it is because they do this a lot in Marvel, where they'll create a conflicted, interesting character, and then like midway through they'll be like, and they do something just totally off the wall evil, so you can fully villainize them now, right?
Right.
And that's kind of what they did with her. And then from that point on, they just didn't make her compelling from really that point on. She just kept like shouting like lines, and everybody would be like, "Yeah, let's do it." And you're like, I don't know, you just
But
lost.
the question is, was
the cause.
everybody with the shits with her? I think at some
Like
point, even her people
Sam
were
made a
like,
better case for her cause than she did.
Right. At the end, but even so,
true.
she went so far left that even her people at one point were like,
Yeah.
she was like, I
Yeah.
said one word, one people, and they were like, yeah,
Which I think was intentional. They're trying to like show how like extremism
going
causes the dissent, but
Right.
it
it was
we
wonky.
didn't see a gradual progression enough. I feel
No.
like, or something, and it just kind of like she just like flipped. She was
Right.
like, nope,
And
let's
so
just start killing people.
Someone made the point that this show kind of needed one more episode. Do
I
you
agree.
think it's because we didn't have that? You know, you could call it even a filler, because then you get to show certain characters doing certain things. So you agree that there's something missing?
Yeah, episode 6 was the episode of endings, right? Like if your whole episode is just an ending after an ending after an ending, you needed another episode to like organically close those storylines. And I definitely felt like we rushed.
There are two things I wish we had gotten more of. One is the Flag Smashers and a little bit more of their shtick right there, like between episode 5 and 6 probably. And also, I kind of wish we had seen Sam in action as Captain America a little bit more before the big save, and before everybody was like stepping out and being like, "That's our Cap," right?
Because I hate that so much.
It just felt like people like, we know his progression, but all those people, just randoms in New York, have not seen all those things, and so for them to just immediately be like, "He's Cap now," it just felt like it was too easy almost for him. Whereas if he had kind of been doing a few things in the public eye, and then people started being like, "Oh man, he's Cap, like he's our guy."
But you know why they did that, right? And why they let the person say it, the person who they let say it, right? They let a black man go, "Oh, that's Cap," and I thought that was very like, you know, I didn't like it per se, because it felt very forced. Yeah. There was nothing organic about it. Go ahead.
Remember after 9/11, right after 9/11, Spider-Man 2 came out.
Yes. You don't mess with New York.
And all the people on the bridge were like, "You don't mess with New York." It was like this whole like anyways, it kind of felt like that.
It kind of, even that, as wonky as it felt, but that's kind of a New York thing. Though it is.
It just,
you can talk about, like, New Yorkers can talk about New York, right? But if any outsider decides to talk about New York or mess with New York, New Yorkers would get you out the paint. So that's almost real. But the thing with Cap was like, oh no, like this is. I just was like, cringe. You know, I didn't like it. And
well, it was
also, they could have made it more.
That Patrick is identifying, right? They're using these like one-liners from people in the crowd to establish what would have been cool to see actually play out on screen.
Right.
And it would have been more interesting, in my opinion. And somebody did mention to me that like this comes up later, like Sam or Bucky or somebody talks about this. But it would actually be more interesting if we had seen conflict like across the country about him becoming Cap, because our country right now is not like a super united country. And if you had seen some people kind of be like, "That's my Cap," and other people like, "That's not my Cap," like that would have been a much more interesting, way to go.
It feels like that's the note they're going to open on for season 2.
Right, on the next whatever. Because I think, Patrick, you sent a thing in the chat where we're getting a
it's not a season 2; it's a movie. There's a full movie coming.
Right.
Yeah.
Okay, now something I want to talk about. I want to talk about the suit. How did everyone feel about it?
I thought it was precise for the comic book suit. And if you don't like the comic book suit, then you're not going to like the suit. And if you like the comic book suit, you like the suit.
That is how preferences work, Patrick.
Yes. But I'm just saying, like, they pegged the comic book suit. So if you don't like it, get mad at the comic book, not at that's all I'm trying to say.
At the show. Okay. Well,
I really liked the suit until the neck. The like reverse helmet is very confusing to me.
Out? I didn't like his ears sticking out.
Yeah,
that was weird.
They just even if it had just been like no cowl and just the cool glasses, dope. Would have been great. The head situation confused me.
Okay, so that's the thing I think Patrick is trying to say, because if you look at the comic book suit, right?
No, it's right on for the comic book for
it's
sure.
But you know, the other thing I think, right? I'm gonna give them just a little bit of a, you know, like a thing where I feel like COVID might have had a little bit to play on that. And here's what I think, right? I think they made the suit, and they, you know how they always run through a couple versions before the final version. I feel like they had this version, and they probably like did a test screen or test shot with it, because again, to me, it didn't feel fitted on Anthony Mackie.
It was a little baggy.
Yeah, as opposed to his actual Falcon suit, you know, the way it looked and fell on him. I think with COVID, they couldn't come back and do a final fitting. I don't know why, but they probably couldn't come back and do a final fitting because of production. I think because production on the show also got halted for COVID. Mm-hmm. So they couldn't do. I'm just guessing here. I'm not sure. I think they couldn't do a final fitting. And so when it came to it, I think the suit is going to get streamlined as maybe in Captain America. Again, it's a thing with Marvel where the first suit you see isn't the last suit you see at the end of the story. Captain America, the first Avenger, that suit, get it out of here. Get it out of here.
I like to think that the suit isn't perfect because Wakanda is just over Bucky asking for things. So they're like, yeah, I'll give you a suit, but I'm not going to take the time to fine tune it to Sam Wilson's body.
Right. So, I mean, I think we can. I can excuse the way it looked, but that half cow thing upsets me because even with the Flash, Wally West, when they did it on the show, it's still, I don't like the just do something else. Do a cool like glasses thing.
Could you not afford the rest of the fabric? Like, what happened?
Yeah, so again with the suit, I wasn't, but I do like that they went comic book. Like, okay, we're not going to try to make it fancy. We're not going to try to do too much with it.
It was safe, right?
We're gonna get it was a safe pick. It was a safe pick. I just wish they did a couple things different. Batroc, which I absolutely love. I love George St. Pierre, so I just love seeing the character. I was kind of sad they killed him, and
I didn't know who he was until I looked him up after the episode.
I like
you didn't
Zemo.
see, but have you seen Winter Soldier?
I've seen them all. He was not notable.
Who died?
The French guy?
He's like a low tier Captain America villain, and I think he worked very well for Sam, seeing as he's not like a super soldier and whatnot. But
yeah,
I like him. I like what he's done in this show. I didn't like that they killed him. You don't care because you didn't know who he was, right?
Well, I mean, his appearances throughout all the various movies in the MCU and stuff have kind of painted an interesting picture about Sharon and how long she's been the power broker. So, but I didn't know any of that until I looked it up after.
Right. And I think if you look at it would mean that Sharon has always been power broker from, say,
oh man,
she's been a power broker for multiple movies
from jump, right? But that's the thing. So now moving on to that. So the fact that I didn't know who the power broker was, I loved. The entire show we heard this voice. It felt ominous. It felt scary. I'm not saying I'm not scared of Sharon because she's a beast.
She knows what she's doing.
Yes, but it's just it didn't land for me because
it was super predictable. Like I guessed it the episode she showed up. The moment. Yeah. Go ahead.
It wasn't just predictable. The thing that I really hate about it is that the power broker should not be a character getting their hands dirty. Should not be the person like out in the field doing the stuff all the time. And that's what we see Sharon doing all the time is like, she's literally the one who shoots the gun to save them. She's the one like has all those awesome fights. Like I loved her in the fight scene when she's defending them in the like crate, laboratory and stuff. And she's in the field again here in the last episode. That's all cool. Like that's great for Sharon. But it doesn't make any sense for Power Broker. Power Broker should be like this puppet master who's like, moving the pieces on the board rather than this.
Are you saying that because of something in the comics?
No, I'm just saying that's the kind
in general.
I mean, yes, but also that's just generally what that kind of character should be is somebody
nameless, faceless,
up a few levels. Like she literally controls an entire like city state.
I think
and yet
she's
so
bored
running around like.
No,
but
I
Stephanie,
think
go
it's
ahead.
interesting
Like
because
it'd be like if Joe Biden was like out on the field like fighting, like what? Like no, like
he would do it in his aviators.
I
but-
think that makes Sharon and the power broker far more interesting because we've seen villains who do everything from the behind the scenes. They don't have any personal risks.
have we? I feel like
boring.
MCU does not do that very well.
I'm talking in general, villainy
We've
in
seen-
general.
we've seen
Like the
enough James
armchair
Bond movies.
villain is
Yeah, we've
played
seen enough
out.
James Bond movies to know that they're villains.
Yeah,
They're armchair.
it's far more interesting that Sharon or Power Broker is not only is she like behind all the machinations, but she's also perfectly capable of carrying them out herself. That aside, I felt like her participation in Falcon and the Winter Soldier was a cover. Like if she wasn't willing to go out on the field and be with them, they would get suspicious of like, what are you doing? I thought we were friends. Like I thought you would have my back. Why don't you have my back? Hey, also, why are you in this super shady part of the world? And why are you like in the heart of it?
So I don't mind that per se. I don't
mind any of that.
But I just don't like the reveal. I think if you had done that, kept it that way, just like, oh, we're gonna get your pardon, blah blah blah, and she's doing everything for the pardon, where it looks, and then fine. I think take that scene of Batroc, her and Carly out this episode, and give Carly a different way to. If you're gonna kill Carly, kill her a different way, or don't kill her. Just do something a lot more interesting than that. That showdown to me it was.
I'm also seeing a lot of.
It was like, I don't like blackmail. Pop, and then the next 2 scenes later, you're shooting. You're shooting Carly in the stomach, not in the head, and she dies. It was really clunky. Again, if you want to you could do a reveal to me, but I feel like the way it happened here was kind of clunky.
It would have been better if it had just been the phone call at the end of the episode. Well, also, one of the things that really bothered me about that is like, I know that Carly kind of falls apart as the season goes on, but it's established that she's wicked smart and that she's really critical and that she can like look at a situation and evaluate her advantages in that moment. And she doesn't understand that Sharon shot her to protect her identity and doesn't tell Sam that Sharon is the power broker. Like that, you have dying breaths left. I'm sorry, she's the power broker.
So standard like comic book trope.
Right.
Also, I'm seeing a lot of my friends who I didn't watch it, but who watched Agent Carter, and they're like pretty hurt. They're like, I know they're not the same character and everything, but like for like
the Carter name smeared.
The Carter name to like now be power broker, I can see a lot of people they're kind of upset about it. Like
which they nod to in episode 6, right? When she's getting her pardon, they're like the Carter name has stood for blah 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 blah. Like they name it in the episode.
Yeah.
Sure.
So now we can talk about the nighttime fight, the aerial fight, which I couldn't see. I don't know.
Helicopter fight.
I don't know if anyone.
I didn't realize there were 2 helicopters at first, and it threw me off.
It was? I thought it was one.
There's one helicopter.
No, there were 2.
There's
there
one.
Were 2, and there's one with all the people in it, and another one that. And so when he took out, he takes out the one without the people in it. I was like, did Sam just kill all those people? Like, what
that was confusing.
happened?
You're right.
Yeah, where the bad guy who was flying his bad guy helicopter took out the one, and then Sam ended up saving the soldiers in the one, right?
Yep.
Okay, great. Because I'm like, wait, there were 2.
But somehow I totally missed that there. Probably because of night shooting. Like I didn't. Whatever. Like I totally missed there were 2 helicopters. He like sends up his little drone to find out there's a pilot, and the next thing you know, Sam like literally blows up a helicopter. And I was like, what just happened?
So I necessarily didn't like that aerial. Again, we've seen aerial combat on the show.
There's something that doesn't make any sense in that aerial combat. And that is either how fast those helicopters are or how slow Sam is.
Right. Real question.
James the pilot. Maybe he can speak more to that, but I'm pretty sure jets versus helicopters.
Okay. Yeah, let's hear that because
Place some knowledge on this, James.
What actually bothered me most in that scene was the pilot in the back seat jumping to the front and saving the like that's. I'm sorry, but that's not happening.
But it felt good. I cheered.
They tried to make it make sense with the timing thing. They at least gave it a nod, rather than.
Nah,
I scrambling. But
I appreciated
the
scene. It just doesn't make any sense.
Movie magic, baby. Fine.
Okay, so this is the second question I'm gonna ask, right? Oh, the first question I'm gonna ask. So now that it's established that Wakanda built Sam's suit, do you think they built in a little vibranium weaving into the suit, or it's just?
Oh yeah.
Yeah.
Oh yeah.
Okay, so if
I
that's
bet
the
there's all
case,
kinds of tricks. Do we know Shuri? There's probably all kinds of stuff in that
so
suit
now,
Sam
so
does
now,
not
if
know
that's
about.
the case, why was he still blocking with the shield when he was getting shot?
Because he didn't get a
He doesn't know.
tutorial like T'Challa did.
He doesn't know. I'm telling you, there's a ton of stuff in that suit that he has no idea about.
Yeah, well, I mean, like, this isn't the first time somebody gets a suit and they perform poorly, right? Like, we get it with, or we don't get it with T'Challa, but T'Challa needs to walk through how the suit works with Shuri. And then I think there are a couple scenes where Shuri has to remind him, like, yo, brother, there are things that you can be doing right now.
Yeah,
We
can
definitely get it with Peter with the new Tony
Exactly.
Stark suit.
Exactly.
Okay.
He accidentally activates his tutorial mode and like things go sideways. So it's like established that suits are smarter than people. And so it's gonna take a while for Sam. Like maybe there's that button, like in Spider-Man suit, there's that when he first puts it on, it's all like floppy and he has to hit the button for it to like conform to his body. Maybe that's why the suit is terrible. There's stuff to figure out still.
You know there's gonna be like an episode where like Shuri's like activate your stealth mode, Sam, and Sam's gonna be like, I have a stealth mode? Like
yeah, for sure.
I do want to just say that probably the sweetest scene for me anyway with that suit was when he lands on the bridge and then puts the wings over
with the shield on the top.
mm-hmm.
Does a little phalanx move all by himself.
Yeah,
it's great.
Yep.
But haven't we established that he can actually do that though? Like that's a thing he's already done with his old suit where he uses the
but still it looked cool.
Block bullets. Well, yeah.
But his old wings would have taken damage. These ones are definitely vibranium.
Yeah.
Oh man, it's funny though. His carbon fiber wings would take bullets, but you know what? I'll just leave it alone. You guys are right. It's just
magic. It's fine.
Right. Next, I want to talk about Walker's scene, which again, I think, right? You think he came in to fight on the side of the right? I think
he came to fight on his own side.
Yeah, it was all
right. He came to fight.
Yeah.
When he caught the truck, the armored car, the armored vehicle, I thought, I was like, fuck. Excuse my language. I was like, fuck this, because I 100% hated it. The Walker that I have in my head is going to look at it and look at Carly and be like, no, I'm here for you. And I'm going to do what I have to do to get you out the paint.
Mm-hmm.
Right?
Yep.
Yeah, I agree. I was also really upset because I thought that scene was setting up Bucky to do something dope from the ground. And then, which is fine, right? Like, I don't know what you would do from the ground. But I was like, wait, is Bucky going to like really get his breakthrough into superheroism as opposed to sidekick stance? Right. And then John Walker jacked it up.
Well, and then Sam's the one who actually...
Sam was the one who saved the day, which is fine. Totally fine.
That's the one part where Sam not having superpowers did not make sense to me.
Oh
this big old armored truck.
Come on.
And I don't care how good your jets are. Your like arms are like pushing.
All he did was push-ups. Okay, let's. I don't care how many push-ups you can do a day.
Muscle structure does not work that way.
Yes. You know what? Yes. I do kind of want him to be a 2D villain. I have no kind of sympathy for him. I don't care for a redemption arc with Walker. You're right. I don't want him to be a
2D villain.
Walker was a villain of this show. I don't care what actually happens in the comics or what goes on in the future. Like
as soon as he took the guy's head off, he became a villain. There was nothing else to be like. There was no line or border. Oh, he crossed the line. If you wanted him not to be a villain, maybe break an arm or break a leg or something. You know, like hurt the guy.
Maybe
really
don't
bad.
make him the villain. Like
so, yes. I do want him to be the villain, but no, Sam catching. That
was rough. It was rough.
I mean, they tried to help him out by saying he has all these other extra jetpacks that push it up, but I'm like, if
all on his unsuperpowered arms.
Yeah.
Look, Captain America curled a chopper. Okay. But never mind.
Yeah. There was one thing about this nighttime fight scene that I did really, really like. It's very small, and I sent a TikTok that walked through it. John Walker's evil. Moving on. We get this scene with Bucky where I don't know if this was intentional. I don't know if this is reaching, but it really resonated with me that there's a scene with Bucky that kind of like parallels his journey throughout all the movies. And it's where he goes off the highway or whatever it is, where he like falls down. So he gets flipped and he's sliding back, and you get the iconic like claw dragging to slow his descent, which is him as Winter Soldier. He then falls off the highway, whatever it is, which is Bucky falling to his death, which we see, I think, in Winter Soldier. And then, but unlike in when Bucky falls as Bucky, when he lands, he has the iconic Superman or superhero pose with vibranium arm breaking, which is like really cheesy fan service to see Bucky land that way. But I thought it was a really cool, like 15-second summary of Bucky's journey throughout all of the MCU. And I thought like it was a really cool callback to like all the various ways that we've seen Bucky. And specifically in this show, he's making, the 3-point landing. He's making a journey. Falcon and the Winter Soldier is a lot about Bucky moving from Winter Soldier to the White Wolf, and I feel like that was a solidifying scene for him. Right. I know the nighttime fight scenes were kind of like lame across the board, but like that one scene for me was worth it.
That's pretty cool.
That's
a good point.
Cool. So the last thing I want to talk about, we've talked about Carly dying and how wonky it looked, but can we talk about the one world, one people thing that happens at the end? Okay, so the only thing I really like, so there's two things. I'm sorry, before we get there, the speech.
There's a few things
Sam gives. The speech he gives when he comes back and he's like, "Hey, look, you guys need to open your borders." The one thing I didn't like that he said was, "We all have the same struggle as a black man." I'm like, no, we don't. But okay, it's cool.
There were a few things in that speech that he gave that I was like, "This is." Like,
I had to look up the writers of the show, and it was
Marvel really appealing to all audiences.
Yes.
Like there were 100%. A couple of things in that speech where I was like, they're willing to go to a certain point, but they're not willing to go past this point. As far as making sure it's not too politically charged.
Because this show is definitely not political. Cough.
Yeah.
I'm sorry. But yeah, the speech.
But also that kind of goes with Sam's character a little bit.
Yes, he kind of, and that's the thing. I think where I had to peel myself back a little bit and listen to it. I was like, you know what, this is Sam. This is Sam is like there's good in everybody, as opposed to if Isaiah gave that speech, it would be totally different. But this is what Sam would say.
Yeah, especially because Sam has only recently come to the conclusion that he can push the boundaries of America by being a black Captain America, right? It's not in Sam's character to immediately like full swing on the pendulum. Like he's gonna toe that middle line because that's the space he's lived in his entire life.
Right. And so I and again on the second watch, I was like, you know what, I'm okay with this. I'm okay with Sam, because again, I had to remind myself this is exactly Sam Wilson from the comic books as well. And then the second thing I actually really liked was, okay, so I didn't like the guy saying, "Oh, that's Cap right there," but I did like the agent coming up and saying, "Hey, Cap, we have," that to me felt more
natural.
Organic. Yes. Yeah. Hey, Cap, we have one more person, one more flag smasher. Guy who fell in the Hudson. Go get him. And I like that because that made him Captain America to me more than the guy saying it.
Yep.
And so that happens. And then the best
and it's a more natural progression. If people are directly in the moment, I don't know, the people are fighting alongside him start calling him Cap before like the randoms just with their camera phones. I don't know. I agree with that.
This show loves its camera phones though. But
it does.
And then the part that I thought was really I laughed when it happened. One World, One People, they're stuffing all the flag smashers into the it's okay. It's not funny, right? But I'm sorry, it was funny to me.
I'm laughing because I sent you a message. I was like, I sent Mo a message and I was like, are they dumb? Why are they putting all the super soldiers in the same truck?
Yeah,
I love that Zemo gets his last lap in there. That was great. I loved it.
Because when it happened, I was like, when it was happening, I'm like, oh, Power Broker is gonna break them out so she can be like, hey, Carly failed. This is me. We're doing our thing.
But no, it was Zemo, and
Yeah.
I was like, yes. And then
And we
you
had
catch
kind
the
of gotten
shot.
to a point where we had forgotten a little bit about Zemo.
Yes, we
and so
did.
then when it happens, you're like, oh, right, there's this other force at work.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So I
Baron
love it.
Zemo was an unexpected favorite this show.
Yes.
Yeah.
Yes.
That
I
club
did not
scene-
care for him in the movie, but I really grew to like him as a character in this show.
You know what? I think in the movie, you
Jail
didn't
changes
necessarily
some people
get-
for the better.
Patrick!
I was not expecting that.
He did a lot of deep thinking while he was in jail. He watched the movies. He got
Oh, that was funny. I was not expecting that. No, Baron Zemo, I think, didn't really get a lot of characterization in the movie, and then we got to see him in a couple episodes and understand a lot more of his reasoning, even though he's still a bad guy. But it's like, oh, okay, you're a bad guy though. And it's funny.
But at least you're entertaining.
Right. You know what? You're out of line.
He really
But
just
you're right.
doesn't
He does
like
have a
super
point.
soldiers.
That's it. He doesn't like, and the only super
Really?
soldier he kind of gives an excuse to is Steve Rogers, which is he says it. There's not another Steve Rogers. There's
Yeah.
and then where he also mentions in that one episode, the super soldier serum doesn't. It doesn't. Yes, it enhances you, but it also brings out like your true nature, or it enhances who you really are, and yeah, and again, which is why I think I was not comfortable with Walker, because we saw him slipping. I think the people who make excuses for Walker, right, or an excuse for Walker, I'm not saying the person watching is, but I'm saying the people who make excuses for Walker are, well, PTSD, soldier, and that causes his slip. But I just, at some point, where does
There's a difference between making an excuse for Walker and saying that Walker is an American ideal of sometimes what is good, even when it's not good. Does that make sense?
You want to expand on that?
Like, there's a lot of things that like America pitches as like good guy actions, that are not always good. And Walker is kind of that kind of good. He's like I don't know. He's like a military patriot, like he's going to do what his country asks of him. And yeah, he's a little bit unhinged, but I don't know. I'm not sure if I'm being very articulate, but
okay.
I feel like he is there to create a contrast for what Sam is as the Captain America, and what Steve honestly was as Captain America, and how it's not exactly the same as just being like a soldier. Like their independence, Sam and Steve's independence from like a lot of military structure, which is like really important in Captain America 2, is like it's honestly key to them being the patriots that we love. Whereas Walker a lot of times is just trying to like,
well, it's genuine patriotism,
serve his country
versus obeying authority.
Yeah,
right.
Which is why I think he feels really comfortable and excited about working for Contessa now, because he's like, great, you just tell me. He's kind of like what's his name from The Expanse. He's like, just point me in a direction and I'll take care of it for you.
Amos? No.
Amos, yeah.
Yeah,
he's like, I'll be your muscle. Just tell me what to do to serve my country, and I'll do it.
Point me and I'll shoot. And
yep.
So I guess that's where you can say there's a complication, or his character is complicated. When he brought up that he was made to be who he is by his country.
Yeah.
That doesn't mean that Walker doesn't bear personal responsibility.
That's the question I was getting to. When is the onus?
But it's really hard when you're a soldier. That's a complicated thing when you're an actual soldier, right? Like,
right.
You're supposed to just follow orders, and yes, there are times where you should break those orders to do what is right. But figuring out where that line is that is an extremely difficult line to figure out.
But I'll ask you a question. whose order was Walker following when he thrust the shield into some
Right.
guy's head?
You can make absolutely you can make space for
Oh, yeah.
being a soldier is difficult. Having PTSD is difficult. Having your
Right.
friend killed in front of you is difficult. The line to navigate is so far away from decapitating somebody in front
absolutely.
of a crowd, pushes Walker into an extremist camp that puts him outside of like, we can have sympathy for where he came from and how messed up he is in the head, but he is still responsible and it is still villainous to do what he did. And then to tell the government, I am what you made me. Like, again, he passes responsibility onto the government and refuses to acknowledge, like, I was in a difficult situation and I didn't handle it the way that I'm supposed to. No, it's, this is your fault. It's not mine. Give me back what I have claimed to be me. And the epitome of white supremacy and white entitlement on display in John Walker.
I don't disagree with any of that, but much of that is very much like, how do I put this? I totally agree with that, but that doesn't mean there aren't Americans right now actively who think that actions like that are patriotic. That's all I'm trying to say.
Right, sure, but that's the problem.
Yeah, it's a problem. I'm not saying
with
Walker is a good guy. I'm saying that Walker is a version of good, is a version that some people project as good. Does that make sense? That they perceive as being good, even though they're wrong.
All right.
Right. It's the wrong part that we need to acknowledge.
Yes.
Yeah, absolutely.
Yes. All that being said, the Falcon. Okay, so now I think we're gonna rank or put the fights that we've seen on the show in some sort of order.
We need to talk about one other thing that really upset me in this
episode.
Like, really upset me, and that was the way that the whole story arc was ended with Bucky and the Asian father. Like, it was. I was just thinking about it. They spent, like, in the first episode, maybe a good 20-25 minutes on that story, right? And then they resolve it in like 30 seconds, maybe a minute at best, especially if you include him glancing back into the bar. Yeah. And I just thought that was going to be a much deeper, richer conclusion than what we got. And it was dumb. He just like walks in and he's like, the Winter Soldier killed your son and I'm the Winter Soldier. And then you see the dad grieving and he just like leaves. And you're like, that, what? Like, no.
Yeah, clearly more conversation happened, but we don't get to see it. And it was really disappointing.
We don't get to know if there was resolution or if there wasn't, the way that it resolved, the way that they ended.
Yeah. I kind of agree with Demos. If they'd cut off, if they didn't show us the bar scene, I think you would have still kind of left an air of, I think that would have been better. That whole bar scene was like, oh, I guess everything is okay. I think
Bucky didn't get what I realized the show is pretty much about Sam, right? But Bucky he was the B plot and he didn't get the resolution he deserved being the B plot. That's all I'm trying to say.
I think my problem with this show, as opposed to say the previous show, the previous Marvel show, is this they tied everything up too neat. Everything ends really clean and there's no dirt, no murk, nothing. I mean, even in my there's nothing like, oh, what could possibly happen later, or what's like this. We
have Sharon,
this threat,
and we have Contessa with U.S. Agent.
Okay, I think Sharon is the only thing. It's like, oh, we can sell government secrets now, and I'm like, ugh, this is so clunky.
Like, American government secrets aren't already being sold and haven't been being sold the whole time. This is a new development.
You open the show with Bucky taking out
Hydra agents
already.
Like, come on,
right? Yeah. You open the show with Bucky taking out Hydra agents, so you're telling me that American secrets aren't on the internet? Maybe not.
Which Sharon already does, right? Like, her access to government secrets is how Rogers gets his shield and suit back. Like, I think that.
To get back what I was saying about Power Broker being more of a puppet master, I think that they forget Sharon. They did not make Power Broker cool enough for me in the show, right? It's not about Sharon. It's about Power Broker. The Power Broker controls literally. They control like an entire city state, and with like almost the entire criminal world in a lot of ways is connected in some way back in different ways to Power Broker.
But I think it
And
starts
like
out.
Sharon,
The character starts out interesting, with the.
it just
with the
doesn't feel
murder.
that way.
When the character kills, I think one of the Flag Smashers, the one that's like, I'll stay back. And his idea of staying back and defending the plane was pushing down a pole to stop them from. I'm like, yo, really? That's really it. All they needed was a grenade launcher, not even a grenade, a rocket launcher to take down the plane. But somehow they have everything they need except that. But no, I think the Power Broker started out interesting. I think the calls, like you took something from me, I'm gonna get it back. All of that was good. You don't need too much from the Power Broker. I think it's the way the whole thing landed just takes away everything they set up, with the calls, with, she's dealing with, Carly's dealing with one thing and turn around and it's like the Power Broker's on the other line, like, I'm going to kill you. That, it's because again, I was looking forward to a type of resolution with the Power Broker, and maybe that just didn't satisfy what I was looking for.
I think the problem isn't necessarily whether or not the Power Broker is a field operative or not. What made Power Broker interesting was the mysteriousness behind the Power Broker.
Right.
And it would have, personally, I think it's dope to play that double agent of like, I'm right here with you. Whose side am I on?
Yeah, that's fun.
Yes, I'm the person I'm gonna dip around this corner to call you and intimidate you. I think Mo said this way a long time ago of just like it was too early of a reveal. Like plant seeds to make us think that Sharon is the Power Broker. Like if for the fact that she was introduced, Sharon was brought in the episode called Power Broker. That's a pretty heavy nod.
Right.
And then just keep us wondering and guessing who is you could let us know that Sharon is working with the Power Broker. And then we have that tension.
Yeah.
Who is Sharon the Power Broker, or is Sharon the Power Broker's right-hand woman?
What would have been better is if Sharon started this show as not the Power Broker, but as the Power Broker's right hand, and then through this episode, this show took out the Power Broker and became the Power Broker. That would have been awesome, right?
But then that's also played.
I'm fine with her being the Power Broker from the beginning, but it would have been cooler for her to like create a double persona of evil.
Like there is a Power Broker, but I can get you to the Power Broker. I know who the Power Broker is, and then at the very end, we get that phone call: "Is I'm in." I can, like that would have.
I even like that. She's like literally like walking down the steps of the Capitol or whatever, making super secret phone calls.
Nobody is paying attention.
One shotgun mic, and we know what's going on. All right.
I have to ask myself, how many times have I walked in DC and made a phone call? Is anyone really listening to me? Like, is anyone paying attention? I'm gonna kill
the NSA literally like picked up that phone call minute 1 and was like, "Oh, we know who the Power Broker is now." I'm sorry. I just want her to be more mysterious, and I don't know, something.
If you had saved that reveal for Captain America 4 as a
agreed
as a cliffhanger for like the next,
and also a lot of people think she's not even. They think she's a Skrull, so
no,
it's gonna get crazy if she's a Skrull, and then she like took the mask off, but that was actually the mask of a mask, and oh man.
I would have gotten away with it too if it wasn't for these pesky kids.
That's the thing everybody's trying to figure out now is who are all the Skrulls, right? Because there's Secret War or whatever coming.
Secret War is coming. I think it's going to be a show. So before we go, let's do a quick quick look up of the fight. So the opening scene of episode 1, fantastic aerial. Again, James, how do you feel about the aerial combat on this show? Episode 1.
I mean, you have to suspend your knowledge of physics and just enjoy it.
I really just want to talk about aerial combats.
I enjoyed that fight scene, but there's definitely like, all right, he pulled up too quickly. That's not possible. Like, you just stopped in midair while flying 200 miles an hour. That's not possible. Like, there's just so many things like that you have to just be like, all right, this is a superhero show. I'm going to enjoy it for its superhero-ness.
Can I pitch a new Earth Earth 2 show where it's just James listing all of the physical improbabilities in an episode.
I'm so down for
It's
it.
like
Well,
new
and that's the problem.
broadcaster style with like a list in front of him. Like minute
One
3,
problem with
second
Sam's
23,
suit.
not possible.
One problem with Sam's suit is it's like a physical suit, so it's not like Superman where he like is using magic superpowers to fly. There is supposed to be some level of physics at work there, so it shows itself more, right? When he
It's
right.
stops midair.
body at some point. Like physically, I mean, in our world anyway, we don't have material that would have held those wings onto his body.
Yeah, which is something that I also like. I mentioned to James yesterday of like there were a couple scenes where like I don't understand Bucky's anatomy, like how that yes, the vibranium arm is hella strong. It's very powerful. How is his shoulder not being ripped out of his torso? Like how does that work? Does he have a vibranium skeleton? Is he the new Wolverman? What is happening? Wolverman,
Yeah.
not Wolverine.
Well, so when they detach his arm, you do see like there's metal into his shoulder socket, so maybe there is more vibranium in there or whatever.
Like, he would need
But
a whole like
it's-
attachment.
His whole
It's
torso
kind of
would
a
be
running
vibranium.
joke in the
You would need
comics
all
of
of
his
that.
arm getting taken off, though. Like literally every time in the comics, that man is losing his arm. So I think maybe they were like, all right, let's not do that in this show where like every second episode he loses his arm again. He has to get
But
another one.
I do like how they took his arm off. It was a series of so maybe
Yeah.
there's connections and vibranium and something in there that takes it off.
Did you talk
Yep.
about that scene in a previous episode?
The tap
Arm
tap tap tap. I guess we could talk about it now because we're gonna talk fights. So the arrow fight in episode 1 we liked.
Yeah, episode
okay.
1. Oh, the arrow fight?
Yeah,
Arrow
the-
fight.
It was-
Oh, the aerial fight. Yeah. I think that was the best fight of the whole show.
I'm
What?
struggling to remember episode
I
1.
do love the point where he goes through the helicopter to take a guy out. Like that. That's a pretty.
It was the most unique fight that showed off what's different about Falcon versus just normal super soldiers fighting.
Okay. And then there's a fight, I think, was it episode 2 on the trucks. I hated that one.
It was okay.
Oh, really?
Yeah,
It reminded me of the Mandalorian fight. Like
okay,
fighting on the
yeah. Anthony actually said the Mandalorian did it better.
The Mandalorian did do it better.
It's
I
because
agree.
John Walker didn't show up.
Right.
No, he was on there.
No,
He's
no,
on
in
there.
Mandalorian. John Walker
Oh,
didn't show up in the Mandalorian.
Yeah.
Okay, great. No, but I didn't like that fight. It just that was the one that I didn't understand. It's like again, okay, so I think the whole entire thing of like super soldiers versus normal human beings doesn't track a lot on this show. You can see how they
Yes.
kind of go from you can hang with them and then in the next
I struggled a
moment,
lot with John Walker before he was a super soldier being Cap doing some of the stuff he was doing.
Listen.
I was like,
on that truck, he was literally Captain America, super
Yeah.
soldier, like he was super soldier, Captain America. So I didn't like that fight. Episode 3, I don't quite remember if no. Episode 3 was Sharon. Loved it.
mhm.
Yeah,
Loved
Sharon's
it.
badass.
Yeah,
Yeah, Sharon that's the best part of Sharon was
right.
taking all them people out. That fight was
Right.
awesome.
That fight
Which,
was
like,
awesome.
okay, I don't want to keep harping this point, but like, if you can fight that well, would you be content on a throne of machinations? No,
Yes.
you would want to be on the field kicking ass.
No way. I totally,
Right.
I would have
totally
all the henchmen in the
disagree.
world.
I
What?
totally disagree because every minute in that fight, Sharon is like putting her life at risk.
Yeah, she was.
It's like if you,
What if she's an
in
adrenaline
any
junkie?
criminal organization, your goal is to get to the level where you are
Well,
not
you
the
don't
one
have to
people are
fight.
shooting
Listen,
at every
no.
day.
Hold the
Like,
phone.
what?
That is your goal.
No,
That is not
no,
anyone's goal.
no, it is. It's literally like
Why is it so
every
hard to
criminal
accept that maybe
organization.
Sharon's goal is just to be the most badass version of Sharon she can be? It doesn't matter to her how long she's that badass. She just wants to be the most badass.
She's not gonna be badass for very long. She lives in a world with super.
Not
soldiers. She's gonna be
everybody
dead
wants to
real
grow old,
soon.
Patrick.
One day she's gonna go up into one of these fights thinking, "Oh, I can take this dude. He's nothing." And it'll turn out to be Sentinel, and he'll just step on her, and she'll be dead. And that'll be the end of.
I don't think she cares. Oh, okay. Sorry, I didn't mean to sidetrack it, but
No,
I
but
want to make space for different,
I love the
different
fight.
villainous agendas.
I do see your point where it's like, you know what, like with Thanos, right? I think it was Avengers, the second Avengers, where he goes, "Fine, I'll do it myself." I think
Yeah,
that's where she's at.
but Thanos doesn't do it first. Thanos isn't like, I'm not using any of you people. I'm just gonna go do it. What's even the point of being a power broker? Just be an independent operative and do stuff. Like, why have a huge organization that you have to like pay salaries to and stuff if you can just do it all yourself?
Patrick, Sharon does not have to explain herself to you. She does not have to get your consent for her villainous plots. She can do what she wants to do because she's badass and she's the power broker.
Agreed.
I'm worried that it's going to turn out she's getting played by somebody because she, I don't know.
It's possible. Okay, back to fight scenes.
Okay, and then episode 4, Wakandan fight.
She's getting played by Contessa. Julia Louis-Dreyfus has her going.
We're moving on.
And then Wakandan fight, we have Wakandan fight in episode 4, and then I think we had the Walker fight in episode 4, which was also pretty good when we find out he's a super soldier now.
There's also the red flag fight. Or
flag smashers.
Flag smashers fight.
Yeah,
I think that's what he's talking about. It just resolves at the end with John Walker.
But what I do like about that episode again is Zemo, the pure joy in his face when he's smashing the vials of
Oh yeah.
I also really like I think I also texted Mo when we were watching that episode, or we were talking about it afterwards, and I'm like in like all caps of like, how is Zemo the most reasonable person in that room? How is Zemo the most collected?
Sam was reasonable.
No, Sam and Bucky and everyone gets played in that fight. They all give in to John Walker's stupidity.
Oh, I see what you're saying.
No, but I think Wakandans just wanted to fight. I'm sorry. I think they just came in to fight, and it would have happened you could have dropped the pin and they would have been ready to go. But I think everyone else
fight is really indicative of what happens like in America, where like we're trying to resolve an issue and then a white man jacks everything up and everyone gets distracted from the point and the point escapes and the opportunity to resolve the issue is gone because the white man centered himself.
I thought we were talking about different fights. Sorry, I thought you were talking about the second fight.
No, we're talking about the
first.
I
was like, why was Sam was like the one trying to talk reason into Carly?
No, I really liked that.
As soon as he goes, listen here. I was like, yep, that's it. It's over. Put the pointy stick. So I'm like, what is wrong with you, bro? Like,
how many notes of misogyny and racism can you hit in the least number of lines?
I've so much. Like, just continue to step
in.
Like,
that's the best case for Walker's villainy right there. Actually, is the licit.
and I think the best part at the end of the fight where he goes, they weren't even super soldiers, because again, coming up to that fight, they had just fought Carly and the super soldiers and they escaped, and then you have that like happen back to back to him, and he
you know what's awesome?
Go ahead.
I just realized. So we were talking about the like misplaced patriotism that Walker represents, right? So that's probably. I know it took me a while to get to the place where I could use those words, but I think that's the best way to articulate what I was trying to say, is the misplaced patriotism that Walker represents. And at the end of this show, Walker is being used by Contessa because of that misplaced patriotism, which is exactly the problem of misplaced patriotism. I think it's a perfect story where we're so.
Sorry, our sound cut out. I have no idea what you just said.
Great, because I thought it was my fault.
No, you're right.
Patrick sounded like a Optimus for a second and then just cut out. I was like, whoa, okay, cool voice synthesizer, Patrick. But
now he's frozen.
And now he's frozen. Good times.
Okay, great. So let's
Am I back? Am I back?
Oh,
yeah, now you are.
So all I was trying to say is, like, basically, we see at the end of that episode, at the end of the show, that misplaced patriotism is being used by people, right? It's being used by Contessa. And so that is exactly the problem with misplaced patriotism, is that it becomes easily manipulated and used by people.
Yeah.
And so actually I think there's a lot there. That's all I was trying to say.
Okay, well that's fair. Still a villain, but he whines after that. They weren't even super soldiers, and then he takes the serum, and then he goes full super soldier, and then we have episode 5. I think it only had the one big fight
In the beginning.
in the beginning, which again, the choreo on that fight, I think it's established at this point that Sam is not Sam. While Sam is hand to hand, he does use his wings and his attack a lot as to aid. Again, it makes sense, and I think that's why it there's a little bit of, because I think Patrick said it didn't make sense that Lamar died fighting super soldiers and Sam didn't. Well, Sam has tech. He has his carbon fiber shields, because again, his shields are his wings are carbon fiber, and they could block punches from super soldiers and not take a dent, which doesn't make any sense. But he could dodge, fly back, and do a fly kick, and because that's what he does a lot. And so I thought that fight was really good to show, because up to that point, I don't think we've really seen Sam really fight. It looked a lot like, he kicked out.
Hi, Patrick.
Talk to you later. It looked like up to that point he had just been, like defending a lot. Like we actually seen him on the offense in this fight, in my opinion, and I like that. And then we get the final fight at the end, which I didn't think was really great with him and Carly. And yeah, it just, again, it was him defending again, but I don't know, just that fight didn't seem really good to me. So if we had to rank them, I would have the Shield fight as number 1.
Okay.
Wakanda is number 2. The opening fight is number 3. Lamar's death fight is number 4, and everything else. I just want to know what you guys will have as number 1 and 2 and 3, the top 3 fights in the show.
I would say I would put the fight with the banker as number 1. I would put, I'm just kidding, the opening scene, the for episode 1 is probably my number 1.
Oh.
Then the Shield fight is number 2. Then the fight with the Wakandan fight is number 3, and all the rest don't really matter, which is sad because the finale should matter. So it's unfortunate.
Right.
What's with these shows not ending well? It's frustrating. Like, did they learn from Game of Thrones? Like, come on, end well.
There's somebody who was talking about how the reason WandaVision and Falcon and the Winter Soldier didn't end well is because the MCU is trying to apply their movie formula to a TV show, and it just doesn't translate the same. They're trying to hit the same equation of beats, but it doesn't work when you have so many openings and closings. Like it just isn't cohesive.
True. Good point.
I think for me, the Shield fight is number 1. Maybe not. And let me clarify that I am basing these on my emotional reaction, not on the choreography or plausibility of them, but just like what they did for the story and what they did for me. So Shield fight is absolutely like far and away the number 1 fight. And then Wakanda fight is the second one. And maybe none of the rest matter because I'm really struggling to remember them. I guess number 3 would be just that one scene with Bucky in episode 6 where we get to see his whole progression in the middle of a fight.
Okay.
But I don't remember the fight scenes in episode 1. Those did not stick with me at all. The train scene moderately stuck with me, but mostly I remember just being angry that John Walker was there. So
Wow.
So I'm gonna vote it. We're not voting, but I'm gonna rank them differently than you guys. I do put the Wakanda fight scene as number 1, and the Shield fight scene as number 2. And I think part of it for me is I love teamwork fights. Like the best part of Wonder Woman and Justice League, the only good part of Justice League, is the Amazon fight scenes, and all the teamwork that goes into them. Like they're just amazing. And whenever you see the Wakandan women come out and do their fighting, the Dora Milaje, they're just fantastic. There's so much great teamwork. There's so much good tactics that you don't even see. The superheroes just use their brute strength usually to fight. They don't do as much tactics. So I put them as number one. Now there's also a lot of good teamwork in the Shield fight, but it's not to the same level for me. So,
well, what's interesting about the Shield fight, thinking about it in terms of like teamwork, is that Sam and Bucky are having a different fight. They're both fighting John Walker together, but they're fighting him for different reasons, and so their teamwork is disjointed because they have different goals.
Right,
Sam's goal
right.
is to rehabilitate John Walker. Bucky's explicit and only goal is to get the shield back.
Yeah. I thought Bucky was going for blood for a second.
But Bucky clearly did not care if John
Oh, yeah.
Walker died.
He looked very Winter Soldier-esque in that fight. Like he wanted to hurt him. He
Yep.
wanted to hurt him. So that's it. The next Marvel show I think is Loki. I'm actually very excited about that. I just know Tom Hiddleston and what's his name? Owen Wilson. I feel like they're gonna crush it. But I'm hoping, fingers crossed, that we don't run into the same problems that we're talking about, how the show doesn't close well. I hope it does.
I think we're gonna, because it's already written and shot, right? So they've already applied the same approach to all the shows that are about to be released.
Yeah, I think Hawkeye show might be different because it's the last one. I think it was the last one filming. So maybe could be
Also,
different.
apparently, weren't these shows supposed to appear in a different order than what they're actually appearing? So that's
My understanding is that
Falcon,
Falcon and Winter Soldier is actually supposed to air before WandaVision.
It was Falcon, Winter Soldier, WandaVision. I think Hawkeye was supposed to come out before the Black Widow movie for a reason.
Oh yeah.
So I think there's an order to these things, and I think Loki was supposed to be at the end because Thor, Love and Thunder. I think. Oh no, either Thor, Love and Thunder or Doctor Strange, melding movie. Multiverse of Madness. Thank you.
You're welcome.
But the other Disney Plus show that's coming out that we have to talk about, that we have to do a show for, is Bad Batch, May 14th. Super excited about that. I don't know if you guys are. I don't know ready.
What word just came out of your mouth.
Bad Batch,
Clone Wars spin-off
Clone Wars
show.
Oh no, they don't know.
They don't know.
Oh.
How is he gonna know? No one's gonna know.
No
one's gonna know.
How would they know?
Oh my god.
Oh my gosh, they don't know.
It's a Clone Wars spin-off show.
I'm super excited about that.
Have fun.
I'm not, but I hope I like it. No, like
what? You didn't like the Bad Batch?
Let's be honest. Why do I love Clone Wars? Ahsoka, and Ahsoka is not going to be in this, so it's kind of harder for me.
But you loved that still had Ahsoka in it. Clone Wars, because there was arc. No. I was thinking about something else. Ezra Bridger, but that's different.
Yeah. Oh,
there was an arc in Clone Wars
Rebels was fine.
About the fives. It was
I think I would have been really excited for Bad Batch like 5 years ago. I'm less excited about it now. I've kind of like moved on a little bit.
Makes sense.
So, anyways, it's fine.
But we are still going to get an Ahsoka
watch
show, though.
We're
gonna get an
and I'm excited for Loki, although it kind of looks like a Nolan film or something. Like MCU tries to do Inception. Like I don't know if this is gonna work.
I was getting a time cop vibe from it.
Oh, totally. Like it, yeah.
Well, I don't know.
We'll
I just feel like it's Tom Hiddleston. I think I think he's the one MCU actor that I'm super comfortable with not messing anything up.
Interesting. He's the only one.
Well, the others are out. It would be Robert Downey Jr. It would be him. It would be it's just him at this point.
Okay.
Yeah.
I mean, I think it'll be fun, but I don't know what to expect.
What to expect from it. Anyways, thank you very much. Thank you very much, Stephanie and James. I'm so glad that you guys were able to make it. Thank you very much, Patrick. Spring Break Patrick is good Patrick because he can do shows. I love it. Thank you guys for coming. We will be back to talk Loki, maybe, because no one seemed as excited for it as I did.
One day, Superman and Lois will return. It'll be great.
At some point.
It'll be great.
Yeah, it'll be great. Thank you very much
for joining. Thank you very much for watching. We will catch you on the next show. I am super excited for the next show.
Bye-bye.
Bye.